What's up, everybody? Welcome to Florida Hood Blogs. As you guys know, I am self-employed. Having my own company and my own work truck, and that's all I need to be self-employed. Today we're going to talk about business. Yes, I have a lot of free time, as you guys know, to dedicate to my hobbies like YouTubing and fishing and other things that I like. And I want to show you guys how to get to the money, how to get to the green. I have learned in my life a lot of things, and I want to share with you guys something that could benefit you. Before I go on to this list, a little disclaimer: I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some regular guy off the street, and this is my opinion, so don't try to sue me, y'all. Number one, the number one principle for being in business, believe it or not, guys, is no debt. Yes, don't do it on somebody else's money. If you have overhead, you can fail. If you don't have any overhead, you can't fail. I own my truck outright, my equipment, and the place where I park my equipment. If you don't have any overhead, you can't fail. For example, if you have an online business, your overhead could be $6 a year. Whatever type of business you're doing, eliminate the overhead, eliminate the debt. If you don't have overhead and you don't have debt, you can't fail. Eventually, your business will make a profit. And this leads us to our second point, is you have to know how to transform into other businesses. Your business could start here and it could shift. You're not going to make a 180 shift. You're not going to go from this direction and make a total 180 shift overnight. You're not going to make a 180 shift overnight, but you could go in this direction and then in that direction, and eventually your business could lead you somewhere else. But you have to know how to transform your business. I started with a truck and trailer. That was my concept: tools, truck, trailer. First I did landscaping, and I failed because of the first reason, is somebody else's money. And number three, which is business partners. That's another reason I failed, but we're going to go back to number two for a second. You have to know how to evolve your business. I started with the concept of a landscaping company, truck, trailer, landscaping company. Then I shifted to scrap metal. When the scrap metal prices went bad, we're out in the middle of the Everglades, so if I do, gotta go karate out here. I wanted to have a nice natural setting for this video. Pick the Everglades, probably a fail. Okay, we are in the middle of the Everglades. I do have bug spray. All right, guys, so knowing how to evolve. That landscaping company failed because we had a business partner and because it needed to evolve. From that, I moved into scrap metal. Now, the scrap metal business led me to what I currently do now, which is junk removal. And the junk removal led me to the YouTubing. But all those things came one after the other. As you get into business, you may find a niche of something else. Maybe if you start a car wash business, you may find out something within that realm. You have to know how to evolve. One thing will lead you to the next, to the next, to the next. You could start off as a butcher, then they could put you in the kitchen, you could start cooking, and from a cook, you could start working with bartenders next door, and you could see how the bartenders do their job, and then you could get into bartending, and eventually you could own your own bar. But that's all a progression. You have to know how to evolve your business into something else, because what you have in your mind might just be within the realm of what you need to do. So be willing to evolve as you get to meet people. You may find other niches within the realm of what you do. Knowing how to evolve your business is important. Number three, business partners. Whatever you need to do, 100% of the responsibility and of the direction has to be in your hands. If there's a third party, a second party, an investor behind you, if there's anybody else who has influence in what you're trying to do, that is a recipe for failure. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to be you, your concept, your idea. And you cannot have somebody else trying to tell you how to run your business, how to invest, or maybe you want to take a risk and you're afraid you can't take the risk because your business partner's not willing to take it. Whatever you do, don't have a business partner. You don't need anybody. You're the person you need to believe in. You're the investor. You're the sole proprietor. Believe in you. Número cuatro. Number four. In my line of work, I don't know what you're doing for a living or what you're thinking about. Availability is so important. If you have a 40-hour gig and you're doing it as a side hustle, it may just screw up the whole thing for you. Availability is so important, and you may have to make changes in your life to do that, to accommodate availability. There's a lot of businesses who are super busy. They're always busy. And, you know, for example, let's say towel guys, they only want to take on the big jobs. They're always busy. You call a towel guy right now, oh, I have availability 4 weeks from now. You know, I've been trying to do my kitchen forever, and I have the money. I'm ready to do my kitchen. I call the towel guy. I say, hey, I got whatever money you wanted right here, ready to go. And he'll say, well, I got availability 4 weeks from now. In 4 weeks, I've spent the money or hired somebody else. And that is important. You need to know whatever you're doing, you need availability for whatever you're doing. And if you're going to go into a niche, you need to understand how important availability is. In my business, junk removal, if I miss a phone call, by the time I'm listening to the voicemail, my customer's already dialing somebody else because they're finding me off Google. The first person who answers the phone gets the job. And when you answer the phone, make sure you don't ask too many questions. You're being judged. When that person calls you, from the minute you answer the phone, the background noise, what you say, you're being judged. You're in a job interview right then and there. For me personally, I make myself available. When my customer calls, I'll let them know, hey, I'm ready to go right now. Do you need this today? You also don't want to make suggestions. Again, it's like being in an interview. When your customer calls you on the phone, they're asking general questions about your business, you're literally in the middle of a job interview. So any small thing you say, you ask a question out of place, anything you say when that phone rings could really take you could lose your customer without even noticing it, without even knowing it. You could just lose your customer on the spot without even giving it. All it could take is asking the person, can I do it today? They may want to schedule it, and they may not like that you're pushy. You lost a customer right there before you even noticed it. So availability, as soon as that phone rings, you're already on the clock with your customer, and you have to understand how soon do they need this service and what questions to ask, what to say, what not to say. That all is one big thing that works all together, and your availability could really ruin or make the business transaction. In my business, my customers know that I'm usually available. I do that by not over scheduling too many things. If I took every single job that I took, this leads us to point number 5. Number 5 is not every opportunity is an opportunity. Let me explain that for you. If I took on every single person who called me, some of them aren't willing to pay you enough. Some of them have jobs that take up too much time. If I took on every single job that ran across me, if I considered everything an opportunity, when my loyal customers like contractors call me, I'm tied up doing something else. Now I'm not available. Now that opportunity turned into a loss on another side. So all these things kind of work together. Not every opportunity is an opportunity. And with that said, knowing how to say no is so important. I just had somebody call me and they needed me to do something that would have taken a long time. They weren't sure what they needed. Look, maybe I'm not the right person for you. This is what we do. I do small trash outs. If somebody has a giant trash out, I'm find a bigger company. Not every opportunity is an opportunity. I've had jobs where I can tell they're going to take up too much time. There's going to be too many things going on. It's going to take up a chunk of my time. Whatever the cause is, not every opportunity is an opportunity, and you should definitely not take up every single person. The reasons could vary vastly. It could have liabilities. It could take up too much time. It could just not be worth it. Whatever the reasons, not every opportunity is an opportunity. Learn to say no, or learn to say a price tag so big that that customer will automatically, they'll be the ones who won't want to do it. Number 6, we are a business, not a charity. You're going to run into people who are going to want you to do things for them that are not in the price tag. You have to tell them, hey, I came here to do this. If you need me to do that, we have to charge you for it. Don't be embarrassed to say you charge. If a customer starts to demand too much, to get too picky, there's a fee for that. I tell my customers, hey, you know, I came here to do this. Now, if you want to expand on that, that's fine, but it's going to cost you this much. I've had customers where I want to do the job. I know exactly how I need to do the job. They want to control and micromanage me. That's fine. If you want to micromanage me to a level beyond what is reasonable, that is fine. You just have to pay for it. I've ran into people who want to control every single aspect of how I do everything, and that is fine. I tell them, look, if you let me work the way I need to work and do what I need to do, it's this much. Now, if you want to micromanage me, we can definitely do that, but it's going to cost. Whatever circumstance you run into, you remember, you're not a charity. You're a business. You have to make money. And if somebody, whatever they're doing, whatever your customer's doing, is taking up your time, your cash, your resources, or just your patience, you have to charge them for that. And it's totally okay to tell somebody, hey, I don't even like you. You're being too pushy. You're demanding too much. You're being too rude. And that's okay. You're the customer. But you're going to pay for that. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so this is just my opinion. Don't sue me. I don't know what the legalities of all this stuff are. But my personal thing, if I work for you and you get out of line, I will put you back in line. You're a business. You're not a charity. You need to make money. And if the customers have particular things that they want done, they just have to pay for them. When somebody asks you for a discount, I tell them just like that. I'm a business. I'm not a charity. I don't come up with these prices. These prices are set. Hey, it's out of my control. My wife does the checks, and this is how it's got to be. I don't even give them the idea that they can change the prices on me. When somebody says, hey, can I have a $20 discount? I say, whoa, my wife processes the checks. If it's not $240, we have a problem. That's it. These are the prices. We're a business. We're not a charity. The idea of prices coming down, that doesn't even exist. If anything, if you have any type of situation, the price is actually going to go up. Number 7. Do not work for people who want to exploit you. It's that simple. When I get a customer and I can already tell that they're shopping around, they're trying to get the best deal, I don't even deal with that customer. I let them know, hey, I'm not the cheapest guy, I'm not the most expensive guy, but I'm the best guy. I'm not the cheapest guy, I'm not the most expensive guy, but I'm the best guy. If you want to find the cheapest guy, I tell them straight up, hey, they're going to upsell you. When they show up, they're going to try to charge you more. Do not work for people who want to exploit you. Once you're working for somebody and you see signs that they're trying to exploit you, that they're trying to get more out of you than they're supposed to, they don't want to pay you enough, don't work for them. And tell them straight up, hey, these are my prices. If you don't put yourself in a position where somebody can exploit you. Period. Number 8. If there's too much liability, I don't take on the job. With people who want to exploit you, you want to look out for liabilities. In other words, could I break something? I went to a job site and the person said, oh, there's $80,000 rugs. And I said, well, I'm not walking on top of them. You're going to have to hire somebody else to get this stuff off your rug, and then I'll move it out of there. And that's exactly what we did. Liabilities are super important, and if you're taking on liabilities, it may not even be worth going on these jobs. If you go on a job site and there's a liability like breaking down a shed, if there's electricity involved, whatever you're doing, if there's liability, it may be better just to pass it up. Somebody's putting you in a situation where all the liabilities are on you, that is a very bad deal. Depending on what type of business you're going to do, you may want to consider a lawyer writing up some disclaimers, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Waiver.
Yeah, like a waiver. Have a lawyer make a waiver form for you. Get a lawyer to do it for you and help you. And have a waiver form for certain things that you're going to run into continually, so that the liability is always on the customer. Again, if you take on some type of liability, maybe it's transporting something. In my case, it could be transporting something that's dangerous, or whatever liability you may run into, it may just be a good idea just to pass on that. So avoid liabilities and make sure that they're never on you. The liabilities, in my case, I don't make $80,000 a year, so ruining somebody's $80,000 carpet, that's not within the realm of possibilities of risks that I can even take. So I lose a lot of customers, and again, like I said earlier, all these points kind of work together. It may just be a good idea to pass on some things. If it's not the right thing, just let somebody else take that risk. Business is not about risk. Business is about safety. A lot of times people think business is risk. Take risk here, take risk there. You're going to stress yourself out. You want to enjoy yourself. Point number 9. Point number 9 is you work to live. You don't live to work. And that's why we don't take on too many jobs. We don't take on anything that's stressful. We don't take on liabilities. Your business should be enough to take care of you, your families, and to eventually be able to save money. I don't believe in working your life away like a slave. That's why I'm self-employed. If I wanted to be a slave to somebody else, I'd go work 80 hours a week at Walmart. I don't do that. I'm self-employed so that I can have time for my family. Number 10, more is not better. Know how big your business needs to be. More is not exactly better. You need to know how big of a business you can manage. I've never tried to have 5 crews of trucks working for me. I don't want that much income. I don't want that much stress. I don't want that many complications, and I don't want to have to work 90 hours a week to manage 5 crews and all these investments. No, and also, when there's a downturn in the economy, now you have employees asking for unemployment, this and that. Know how big your company needs to be. More is not necessarily better. A lot of the Cuban restaurants here in Florida, they're only open from like 9 to 2. And a lot of the customers say, hey, well, we want to come at 9:30 at night. They don't care. They understand this is what I can manage, because it's a mom and pop place and they don't want to have employees and liabilities and the whole package. More is not always better. A lot of times people tell me when I go to the landfill, when I go to job sites, why don't you have a dump trailer? Because a dump trailer is $10,000. The trailer that I have now is $3,000. That's $7,000 that I don't have to spend. My truck doesn't need to be a $3,500. This is an $8,000 truck. Actually, I had it up for $5,000. I didn't even sell. So with a $5,000 truck now, it was $10,000 when I bought it initially. I've put miles on it. That's another thing. Do I need a brand new truck? No, I don't. You don't need. More is not better, and bigger is not exactly better. You need to know what can you manage. If you're in a position where you can manage a lot, know how much you need to expand. Do not expand. Like, I'll give you guys an example. There's a Lucky's Market across the street from where I live. They built the Lucky's Market, and then they closed it like a week before they even opened it. Hertz, the big rental company, they built these huge buildings in Bonita Springs and Estero, and they just supposedly are going bankrupt, allegedly, right? I don't know. More is not bigger. What can you manage? Can you manage 2 people or 1 person? That's all you need to make a living? More is not better. Know how big your business needs to be. When I started my business, I told myself I never want to have employees. I want to just manage it by myself. All right, guys, I'm also going to give you guys a few other pointers, a little extra bonus tips if you're trying to start a business. Respect your customers' privacy. Depending on what type of work you do, you may need to have to respect your customers' privacy. When it's adequate to do that, make sure that you respect your customers' privacy. Don't go blabbing to one customer about another customer, because then they're going to think you're doing the same thing about them. Also, with hiring people, this goes back to how big of a business you really need when it comes to hiring people. Sometimes those employees you hire can actually make you look really bad. So, that's another thing you want to consider, is if you can keep it just to one person. Sometimes employees, I've lost a lot of really good customers, not over what I've done, but the people that I've brought in onto jobs who haven't done what they were supposed to. So, don't be the cheapest, but don't be the most expensive. Be somewhere in the middle on your prices. Control an area. Focus on a neighborhood and say, okay, I live in this neighborhood. I'm going to find customers right in my vicinity. Don't look, don't take on a job that's 10 miles from your house or 20 miles from your house if you have to go there constantly. Look for an area and just start within your vicinity and try to control that. Okay, this is a really important point. Understanding the level of professionalism that you need to have. I initially just wanted to make 10 points, but there's so many important things that I need to share with you guys that I'm just going to throw in a few extra bonus points. And this is one of the really important bonuses I want to throw at you guys, is knowing the level of professionalism that you need to have. It's super important. If you're a salesperson and you're wearing a tie and a suit, you could scare your customers away. It's too much professionalism. If you show up to a construction site wearing sandals, it's not enough. Knowing exactly where you need to be between casual, professionalism, every business is going to be different. A guy at a car wash, maybe all he needs is a uniform. If you're at a car wash and you don't have a uniform, it may not look right. If you're a business person, you won't show up too casually, you really need to understand the level of professionalism. If you're too professional, you're going to scare people and you're going to make them feel uncomfortable. If you're not professional enough, then they're not going to trust you. And that's one of the bonus points that I really want to drive home. Recent point that I'm working on, you always have to refine yourself and make yourself better. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in business is knowing when to stand up for yourself. And I've really been working on that. Again, if a customer gets out of line, they're trying to exploit you, they're trying to put too much liability on you, or they're just not treating you with respect and dignity. And that could be not respecting your time, it could be not respecting you verbally, it could just be whatever type of situation you're dealing with. This is why I love being self-employed. When I work for somebody else, they tell you the customer's always right, make the customer smile. No, the customer's not always right. Absolutely false. I mean, that looks beautiful on a top 10 list of what the customers are. No, they're not always right. Sometimes the customer needs to be put in check. And one of the things that I love about being self-employed, and I actually love doing it now. At first I was terrified. One of my business friends told me, Jose, you have to stand up for yourself. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I'm afraid. What if I lose? He said, doesn't matter. You have to stand up for yourself. When a customer is disrespecting you, when a customer is not treating you right, you have to stand up for yourself. It was so intimidating at first, but this is one of the things that I love about being self-employed is now when a customer, sometimes I'll let it slide if it's insignificant, but if it needs to be addressed, I love addressing it. And I love letting the customer know, if you're a jerk, you're paying for it. If you disrespect me, you're paying for it. If you waste my time, you're paying for it. If you make me late, you're paying for it. And vice versa. You also want to come through on everything that you've promised to your customer, but your customer also has to come through for you. One last secret that I've learned is sometimes, and this may not work for every business, in some businesses you can't do this. If you're able to ask your customer when you're discussing prices, what do you think is fair? I've ran across situations where the customer wants to pay me a whole lot more than I'm willing to charge them. So it is okay to ask your customer, have you had any other quotes? What do you think is fair? Whatever it is you're doing for your customer, and this may not be smart in all situations, but if you're working with somebody who's easygoing, you like their vibe, they're positive, you can tell they're not really too much of a, you can tell they're not going to hassle you. You'll get a feel for customers that are good. When you have a good customer, you can ask them, hey, what do you think it's worth? The first time you deal with that customer, you can do that once. And then if there's a problem, you can just explain to them, like, if it's worth 300 and they think it's worth 200, you can explain to them, well, blah, blah, blah. I think 300 is fair, it's more than fair. Actually, I think it's worth 340, but I'll do it for you for this price. You can do that one time, but don't get in the habit of doing that. You can do that one time to feel out your customer. If you get in the habit of doing that, you can create a cycle where your customer is always trying to see how they can upbeat you, and you don't want to do that. I've made that mistake. But if it's the first time you're dealing with a customer, you're definitely welcome to ask them. And if that's going to be a repeat customer, that customer may always be more generous to you than you are to yourself. I have definitely had customers where I think it's worth 300 and they think it's worth 500. And I tell them I think that's more than fair, and they might give me 540. So you could definitely run to customers who think you're worth more than you're worth. So don't undersell yourself. Ask your customer, not all the time, but on occasions, it could be beneficial to ask the customer what they think is fair. Also, there could be something your customer doesn't understand. Your customer may not understand that. Your customer might think your service is worth $1,000, but it's worth $10,000. Your customer may not understand, hey, I have a license. Hey, I had to take training. I have an investment. There's some things about your business that your customer may not understand. Your customer may only take the service they're getting, but they don't understand you have a location, you have all these overheads, you have licenses, you have liabilities, you have insurances, you have all that, and your customer may not understand the bigger picture. Then you also have to pay taxes on top of that. Your customer may not get that big picture. It's important for your customer to get that if they don't. That's it. That's all I can say, and I hope my information about how I manage my business and how I tell my customers off can be useful for you.
Florida Hood Blog subscribe. Florida Hood Blog subscribe. Florida Hood Blog subscribe. Florida Hood subscribe, Florida Hood Blog, 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 subscribe.